Hello there, Pursuing Freedom friends. Thanks as always for tuning in. I'm your host, Erin Bradley. And if it's your first time here, welcome aboard. For all my avid listeners, thanks for being here. I love having you and I love your support. And today I've got a solo cast for you with yours truly. And I want to talk about a summer challenge that we've been doing inside of my community, the collective, and the ridiculous, extraordinary results that we've been seeing because I think a lot of us right now, many of you, if you're listening as I'm recording this in June of 2025, have been feeling the pinch, right? The stress of the market and the industry and the uncertainty that has come along with it. However, we've been listening to other people on the podcast, and we know that there is an opportunity to thrive even in challenging circumstances. And those who decide to thrive and are willing to be creative and pivot are able to create extraordinary results in spite of the market. And so that's what I really want to talk to today is how can each and every one of you listening take the wheel, believe in what's possible, and create a reality for yourself that is something you want to run towards rather than having goals that feel like something you're just running from, like problems we're trying to solve. So, before we get into this short episode, I just want to remind you many of you know the story of when I went 100% commission in 2007 and then promptly fell flat on my face because I did not have a game plan, I did not have confidence. And when my credit card was declined for a $2 cup of coffee in front of the client, and I felt like a failure and complete financial rock bottom, I remember asking my dad for advice. And one of the things he said to me was, Erin, do you think you're going to be good at this someday? And I remember taking a moment to pause because honestly, I didn't have any evidence to indicate that I would be, given I was racking up tens of thousands of dollars of credit card debt and maxed on all my credit cards. But I took a moment and I said, yes, I think I could be good at this someday. And he said, okay, then you have to do whatever it takes. And on a recent podcast interview with Damon Lemby, if you heard that interview, you may remember the story where he was recruited to play college baseball. And after the season started, the coaches brought him in to the office and they said, you know, Damon, we think we made a big mistake. We thought you had what it takes, but we're not so sure. And as you can imagine, his stomach dropped and, tears in his eyes, thinking he's being kicked off the team. They let him sit with that for a minute. And then they said, actually, Damon, we know you have what it takes, but until you believe it, nothing's going to change in your performance or your reality. And so before we jump into this short episode regarding a strategy that is working right now to help many real estate professionals and other business owners create abundance in their business in spite of the market, I want to ask you to sit with that for a second and ask yourself, what do you believe? There's so much chatter in the industry right now that leaves us feeling the uncertainty is just exacerbated because if you're surrounded by people that are riddled with self-doubt and worry and stress and fear, it's contagious, right? And so if you're talking with somebody who's feeling all of those emotions, then it's likely that you may be second guessing your own ability in this market. But unfortunately, we don't have time to sit around and wait for the market to shift. We don't have time to wait for external circumstances. We need to be willing to take the wheel. And it really is just that. It's not a matter of whether you can, it's a matter of whether you're willing. And it begins with what you believe. So we had Daniel Del Real on the podcast not too long ago. And he talked about how when he was in the military, they had to learn to silence the gunshots. And in the real estate space, the gunshots are the market, the news, the interest rates, the inventory, the listings that are sitting, the economy, right? And so in order for us to silence the gunshots, we need to stop and pause and start right here and just ask yourself, what if it's possible? And when we look around and we see others that are creating success for themselves, it's very easy for us to quickly assume that they have some different set of talents or gifts that make it easy for them. And that's not really the case. In fact, when you get into conversation with those who are succeeding right now, there's not really anything special other than number one, they're unwilling to settle for anything less. They believe it's possible. And then they're willing to do what it takes to create the results that they desire and deserve. And if we are going to assume it's possible, the next question, which doesn't get talked about enough in this industry, in my opinion, is if we can assume it's possible, what would make it fun? A lot of the people I meet in the market right now come to me with no shortage of strategy or experience or relationships, but they're burned out, they're bored, they know what they need to do, but they're inconsistent or they're not in the mood. So if you can relate to any of that, then it doesn't matter what kind of action plan I provide to you. If you don't enjoy the work, if it's not fun for you, if you don't feel like it, then you're going to be unlikely to execute with consistency. And the truth of the matter is the outcome isn't the issue. The issue's in the execution. So if the execution is inconsistent, then likely so are your results. But if you don't like the activity of executing on the action plan, then again, you're going to be unlikely to be consistent. And even if you are consistent, if you're muscling through the activity, if you're forcing yourself to do it because you're trying to satisfy that fear, that anxiety, then even if you check all the boxes and log all the hours, you're just going to find yourself exhausted, bored, burned out, and likely ineffective. Meaning that even if you do it, if you don't feel like it, it's going to be noticed and you're probably not going to get great results from it. So what would it mean for your business to be fun again? And I heard somebody talking about how the word fun itself can be a trigger because a lot of adults have lost the ability to know what fun is over the years. Like as children, all we want to do is have fun, right? And it's hard to keep us in the lines. But then as we start to age and experience contrast in life and challenges, all of a sudden, sometimes the fun seems to slip right out the window. And it's been a while since we've asked ourselves what would be fun. But what's interesting is everyone I've ever talked to can agree that at least once in your life, you've gone on vacation or you've attempted to go on vacation, and then the phone rings, the business picks up, you get a new referral, and it's so annoying, right? It's why is that happening? It's because you're trying to have some fun. I noticed it when I first moved to a ski town from Denver, and my kids didn't have school on Fridays. And so I would try to take Fridays off, not off the grid, not unavailable, but I would try to not be pushing myself to be an overachiever on Fridays and just lighten up and try to have some fun. Inevitably, the phone would ring every Friday with a new lead or referral of somebody who wanted to go see a property this weekend and needed to be pre-approved. So it is interesting, if you're willing to be a witness to it, that fun can be the magnet that attracts. Taking that concept into the action plan, we've been doing a summer challenge, like I mentioned at the beginning of this recording, where it's a 4-week boot camp. And I decided that because so many people are struggling out there, and yet inside of the collective, it's like a bubble. It's like we're living inside of a bubble of people that are turning the light on, accessing fun again, finding their mojo, and all of a sudden business is booming. In fact, I was talking with one of my members recently, and she literally said, it's been so crazy. It's raining loans right now. She's a mortgage lender. She said, it's raining loans. And I thought to myself, if it's been raining loans, we need to get you to share your story and strategy. And so we did. We had her as a guest inside of one of our collective community calls where she shared what are her best practices, what are her standards so that she can be creating success in this market. And then I was checking in on another member I hadn't spoken to in a minute. I hadn't seen her on the calls. And so I reached out to her to see if she was okay. And her response was, oh my gosh, yes, it's crazy. She's a real estate agent. She's had 7 under contract. She had 3 new listing appointments that day, 2 more listings coming live, and then a fun $1.8 million listing coming on next week. And she said, and it just keeps coming. It's been crazy. So this is something that some people listening might think that sounds like a great problem to have. Well, how are they making it happen? Well, simple. With the 4-week boot camp, we dive into a guided journey where you have a video tutorial each week for 4 weeks, and it provides you the homework so that you can execute in bite-sized pieces. And there's daily email reminders from Monday to Friday to help you stay on track and stay accountable. And the first thing we do is we talk about, when are you going to implement? We became self-employed for a reason. And I'm pretty sure nobody listening to this said to their loved ones, I think I'm going to take the leap, forego the steady paycheck to be 100% commission in the hopes that I can work 7 days a week, 365 days a year for the rest of my days, never take a vacation, be tethered to my phone from the moment I wake up till the moment I fall asleep. And yet, how many of you right now are feeling guilty knowing that is exactly what you've been doing and what you've allowed to happen? At the end of the day, we say we want to be our own boss, but very few operate like a boss. And we run on fumes, on autopilot, logging more hours, checking more boxes, wondering when the day will be done. Well, the day is done when you've determined what your game plan looks like, right? When you've determined, okay, on these days I do these certain activities and those are my minimum standards and this is my schedule and I protect the time like my life depends on it because it does, because my business depends on it, right? That's a non-negotiable, right? I'm unapologetic in running my business like a business because that's what gives me the freedom I claimed I was after when I started. So I became self-employed for a reason. I thought it was for freedom and flexibility. I quickly learned that I don't feel free when I'm stressed financially, and I don't feel free when I'm stressed and overwhelmed because I don't have a schedule, I don't have boundaries, and I'm a slave to my own success. And so we've got to start with determining when are you going to do the things that are going to move the needle in your business so that you can be at peace. In the early years, I thought structure sounded suffocating because I didn't want any rules. But because I didn't have any rules, I was a slave to my success. And so I learned in hindsight, thanks to the coaches that I hired and the communities I was a part of, that a little bit of structure is where the freedom lies. The structure, it creates the liberation because when I've completed what I set out to do, I can give myself permission to rest and recover, which is actually an important part of being a business owner, is being rested, being present, focused, energized, enthused, right? So we create a light schedule. We ditch the workaholism and the being tethered to your phone all the time, wondering when you have permission to turn off. You have permission to turn off when you choose to give yourself that permission. The second thing we do to make it fun, first, is not being a workaholic. I mean, that's not fun. So let's not do that anymore. Second thing is we decide who do we want to serve? And inside of some of my trainings, we talk a lot about landscape design and how your landscape, your garden in the springtime is often filled with weeds and things that have been there ever since you moved in that you just haven't evaluated. And then there's the pretty things that come up every year that somebody planted at one point. And then oftentimes there's things that you plant every year. So sometimes we have to uproot the garden, specifically for those of you who have been in the business for some time. In the beginning, before we know what we're capable of, we'll just take what we can get, right? We just let anybody into our life and business because we're grateful for a paycheck. And sometimes it results in the garden becoming kind of messy, where it's maybe been a minute since we've evaluated, is this really the garden I want to tend to? Did I choose this or am I settling for it? And so when we uproot the garden, we simply evaluate where are there relationships in my life and business that energize me, the people that bring a smile to my face. And without any shame or regret, maybe I've lost touch with them, but if I can remember what it felt like to work with them in the past, to help them through the process of the transaction, and I've lost touch, well, there was a sincere connection there and it's still there. If you think about an old friend that calls you out of the blue, you're not mad at them that they haven't called you. You're grateful to hear from them because there was a genuine deep connection there. And this happens in our business all the time. And so what would make our business fun is if our clients became friends and our friends became clients. And if we were willing to be selective around the type of people that energize us and the type of people that drain us. So one of the pieces of advice that was given to me many, many years ago, which I often repeat, is the 25% rule. 25% of people will love you no matter what. 25% never will, no matter what. And the 50% in between are your fair weather friends, or they just haven't met you. But you can build a successful business and a happy life if you're willing to determine and discern who are your 25%. And by the way, that changes over time, right? Some relationships have a season, and someone that was energizing to you in the past may be a drain or a drag for some reason today. That's okay. So we figure out, when do you want to work? We figure out with whom, who do you want to serve? And then the how is to get into conversation, because the goal here is to build relationships. The biggest resistance I see with people, picking up the phone or setting those appointments or getting more conversation with potential end users, their client base, right? Is there's a story there of what am I going to talk about? I don't think they want to buy or sell right now. I don't want to talk about real estate. They don't want to talk about real estate. And I'm like, you're right. That's a you problem. So the goal instead is to get curious on how to be of value to others instead of insecure regarding making this call so I can solve my problem. And I'm coming from a place of scarcity and fear and worry and self-doubt. And I was told by some sales trainer that if I make more phone calls, I'm going to solve my problem. Well, no wonder I don't feel like doing that. Right out of the gates, I'm laden with dread and resistance and procrastination because I'm so focused on me and what I don't like about where I am that that's not a great place to activate and engage from, right? If you're in a stage in your life where you are feeling down, most of us retreat. We don't reach out, we don't engage. And so what we need to do instead is assume they don't need your services right now. Take that out of the equation so that we can lighten up a little bit and we can connect with people we care about, not from a place of what am I going to get from it, not needing a specific ROI from this phone call or this meeting, but from a place of love, sincerity, and curiosity to serve. And then we can leverage those relationships we have to ask them to connect us with other service providers that they know, like, and trust, because like attracts like, right? High vibe, positive people tend to like to hang around other high vibe, positive people. So if I'm calling upon my energizers and they're going to introduce me to their favorite people, chances are I will align with those individuals as well. But I'm always going to bring that 25% rule. I'm going to assume that maybe 1 out of 4 people that I connect with are going to be the right fit for me to expand my network and my impact in my community. As I start to meet those people, I come with the same sense of curiosity. How can I be of value to you, even if you don't need my services right now? And it just feels easier, doesn't it? It feels lighter. It doesn't feel like a have to or a should because I'm not doing it so I can get something from it, which is what creates the resistance to begin with. And then the resistance leads to inconsistency, and the inconsistency leads to poor results. So the goal here is to reverse engineer from the inside out, from your heart and soul to their heart and soul. How can I truly be of value? And fear cannot exist in the same space as love. So if it's not sincere, if I feel some icky energy, I'm not going to engage. That's not going to move the needle for me. And right now, what I need is massive engagement. That is the one common denominator of every single person who's having their best year ever. In fact, one of the members of my community had her best year ever in 2024, and she's on track to nearly double it in 2025. And again, if I ask, what are you doing? Well, she's having lots of conversations, because if I bring an idea to a conversation and then you bring an idea, oftentimes a third idea is born that wouldn't have existed if we hadn't had the conversation. So one of the things I encourage everyone to do is think about how you are on the weekends with your friends and family when you're not thinking about work. Okay. If someone you love is going through a tough time, the first thing we tend to do is start making suggestions, right? Recommendations, connections. Maybe I can connect you to so-and-so who can help you with that. Have you thought about this? That's what humans do with people they care about. We love to be the problem solvers. We love to be of value, right? It's only when we put the work hat on that everything becomes awkward and all of a sudden it feels salesy. And it's like, that's why I say take the work hat off, put it on the shelf, assume you need nothing, assume they don't need your services right now. And right there, you will feel instantly your nervous system will calm. And then replace that fear with love, replace that insecurity with curiosity, and then come from a place of being of value. So in this 4-week boot camp, which I've enlisted a lot of people to participate in this summer challenge because it's really fun to see what's possible. We're going to walk you through a step-by-step process, and there are even scripts provided. When you think to yourself, what am I supposed to say? I got you. Okay. I've got that solution built in there. It's not cheesy. It's not salesy. It's not even self-serving. It is authentic, easy, and fun. And when you apply the process to people you care about in very specific windows of time, so that you don't burn yourself out, you will be shocked, like surprised and delighted by the seemingly out of the blue pop in business, because I'm not getting it from this interaction. I'm getting it from the ripple effect that happens when I come from a place of contribution. And when I give more value than I hope to receive, which is the go-giver philosophy, it ripples out. And all of a sudden, there's unforeseen opportunities when your name is showing up at the dinner table or at the office or on the sidelines. So it's a step-by-step system. It's the exact process that I developed in 2011 after reading The Go-Giver, that I applied to the real estate space, and I saw my business more than double seemingly overnight. I used the same process again personally when my business slowed down after I experienced massive overwhelm and burnout, and then my pipeline dried up again because I tried to play small, and we're not here to play small, okay? That's a conversation for another day. We're here to expand, and we just need good systems and support to be able to expand beyond our personal capacity. So when I decided I wasn't going to play small anymore, and I wasn't going to quit, which was one of my other options on the table in 2013, the only option I saw was to scale and to expand. And so in order to do that, I made a goal, and then I applied this exact same strategy to ramp up the volume. And I was able to bring that team member on. And then my biggest fear came true while training. The business slowed down again. The pipeline dried up. Okay. The pipeline will dry up from time to time for various reasons and external circumstances. But what I want for you is to be empowered to know that when you find yourself in a slump or a valley, you have the tools, you have the clarity, you have the relationships, you have the energy, and it can be fun to turn the faucet on again. And so we applied this exact same strategy that's in the 4-week boot camp, and we went from 2 closings a month in August to 12 closings a month in December. It took us 4 months to 6 times the volume. The market shifted in 2018, business slowed down again. I found myself stressed out and panicked. We applied the same strategy. We went from 3 closings a month in January to 9 closings a month by March to 17 closings a month by June. So we tripled the volume in 90 days. We 5x'd it in 5 months, and it's happening right now with members of my community. One of the members of my community applied the process that's outlined in the 4-week boot camp, and within 2 weeks, he had 17 new referrals. I had another member who came into the community in a slump, very experienced, hadn't had a closing in a few months. Within 6 weeks, she went from 0 under contract to 5 under contract. These are real people that have gone through challenges just like you and I, whether it's because of personal life events, tragedies, babies being born, markets shifting, economy, interest rates, you name it. Things are going to happen. They're going to knock you down. The question for you is, how long are you going to stay there? How long are you going to put up with this? Because we can't wait around for someone else to deliver the abundance that we desire and deserve. We have to claim it. We have to believe it. We've got to expect it and then plan for it and then lighten up and have some fun in the execution, because this isn't about the one-size-fits-all strategy that's going to be the Band-Aid to feeling low. It's about turning that light on from within, sharing that light with your world in such a way that it ripples out and creates that wildfire of opportunity that's right here at your fingertips. You are on the leading edge. So the question is, do you want to join us? Because I would love to support you. And if you want to join us, I'm offering access to this self-paced program, this 4-week program that has the potential to double, triple, quadruple your referrals in as little as 60 to 90 days for 80% discount, because I want you to have success so badly. So if you hop over to pursuingfreedom.com/bootcamp, you can put in a coupon code SUMMER, and you can get lifetime access to this program to be able to utilize it anytime you need it in the future. Anytime life knocks you down and you need to get yourself back up and have some fun doing it. And you'll be able to access this for the rest of your life for just $97. So pursuingfreedom.com/bootcamp. And I would love to hear from you if you choose to participate. If you get stuck, just shoot me an email, reach out to me, DM me at Pursuing Freedom Official. And if you are curious about our higher level mastermind, you can check that out at pursuingfreedom.com/collective. Our collective community meets live twice a week in group coaching format, and that is where we are living inside of a bubble of abundance. It is like the rules are different here. And if you feel called to that, please just connect with me. We'll get on a phone call and we'll determine if it's the right fit for you, because the 25% rule applies everywhere. And if I'm not the right fit, trust me, with over 250 podcast episodes here, I know a plethora of amazing coaches out there that are waiting to support you. The key is to get in the room with people that remind you of your future, to not convince yourself that this is the only reality, that there are other realities, many realities being lived right now, and that we get to choose the one we live in. And so if we're unhappy with our now reality, let's find our way to the people that represent the light, the people that are going the places we want to go, or they've been where we're trying to be. And we hang around them and we watch as our belief and then our activities, our habits, our thoughts begin to expand and create a reality that is, again, something we want to run towards. This is my hope and my wish for you. So thanks for tuning in here today. If you have any questions, please contact me. And if you jump in to the summer challenge, I cannot wait to see the results that are possible for you, because if the indication is out there, the extraordinary is awaiting, and abundance is real and it's alive and it's available whenever you're ready for it. So I love you. I appreciate you. We'll see you next time.